I held my son as he died. His eyes were open, looking at me, not with hatred, not even with anger, just confusion, a question that will haunt me until my last breath. Why? I had no answer then. I have no answer now. That was 3 years ago. 3 years of sleepless nights. 3 years of seeing his face in every shadow. 3 years of feeling his blood on my hands even after I have washed them 1,000 times. They call me Ivan the Terrible, Grozny, the one who made Russia tremble. I have earned that name, every letter of it. But the title was not earned in glory. It was earned in darkness, in choices that cannot be undone, in sins that cannot be forgiven. I am dying now. The doctors whisper in corners, thinking I cannot hear. They say days, I say hours. I can feel it, the cold creeping up from my feet, the weight pressing on my chest. My hands shake, my vision blurs. The fire is dying and I lack the strength to call for more wood. Good, let it come. I am tired of living with what I have done. But before I go, I will speak, not to beg forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I would not accept it if offered. I speak because someone should know the truth, not the legends, not the songs, not the whispers in foreign courts. The truth from my own lips, while I still have breath to speak it. I was not born a monster. No child is. But I became one, slowly, piece by piece, until one day I looked in the mirror and did not recognize the man staring back, and I cannot remember the exact moment when I stopped being human. That is perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. My first memory is warmth, my mother's arms around me, her voice soft, singing old songs in the candlelight, the smell of her hair, the feeling of being safe, protected, loved. It did not last. It never does. My father died when I was 3 years old, Grand Prince Vasily III. I do not remember his face. I have seen paintings, of course, icons, but I do not remember the man himself, only the aftermath of his death, the black cloth everywhere, the wailing of women, the sudden silence when I entered rooms, as if my very presence reminded them of what they had lost. My mother became regent, Elena Glinskaya. They called her fierce, they called her beautiful, they called her dangerous. She had to be all of these things. The Boyar families circled like wolves around a wounded deer. The great noble houses who believed they should rule Russia, who saw a woman and a child as obstacles to be removed. She fought them, with words when words would work, with poison when they would not. My uncle Yuri she had arrested and thrown into a dungeon. He never emerged. I was too young to understand what that meant. I only knew that people kept disappearing. Lords who had smiled at me one day were simply gone the next. Their chairs empty at the great table, their names never spoken again. Then my mother disappeared too. I was 8 years old. They came to my chambers before dawn, shadows in the doorway, voices flat and cold. Your mother is dead, they said. No comfort, no embrace, no explanation, just those 4 words. And then they left me alone in the dark. Later I learned the truth. Mercury. The same poison she had used on others turned against her, fed to her slowly over months by someone in the palace. Someone who smiled at her every day. Someone who probably smiled at me. I never discovered who. I spent years searching, killed many trying to find answers. Perhaps I killed the one responsible. Perhaps they died peacefully in their bed, laughing at me. I will never know. But in that moment, I was just a boy, motherless, fatherless, alone in a palace full of men who saw me as either a threat to be eliminated or a puppet to be controlled. The Shuiskys came first. Andrei Shuisky. I remember him clearly even now, a thick man with small eyes and a smile that never reached them. He moved into the royal chambers as if they belonged to him, sat on the throne that should have been mine, gave orders that I was forced to obey. I was Grand Prince of Russia, heir to an empire that stretched from the Baltic to the Urals, and I was treated like a servant in my own home. They controlled everything: what I ate, what I wore, who I was allowed to speak with. Some days they fed me well, seated me at the high table, dressed me in fine clothes for foreign ambassadors to see. Other days I was forgotten, left in cold rooms with nothing but bread and water, dressed in rags while they wore silk. The message was clear. They owned me. My comfort, my very survival depended on their whims. They beat me when I displeased them, when I spoke out of turn, when I asked questions they did not want to answer, when I showed any sign of the spirit that should have been my birthright. I learned to be silent, to keep my eyes down, to make myself small and invisible. But I also learned to remember. Every insult, every blow, every humiliation. I carved them into my memory like words into stone. I made lists in my head at night, names and faces, what they had done, what they had said. I promised myself that one day, when I had power, I would not forget. They thought they were breaking me, teaching me to be obedient, shaping me into a puppet they could control forever. They were wrong. They were not breaking me. They were forging me, hammering me into something hard and sharp, something dangerous, something that would one day turn on them with all the fury they had planted in my heart. I was 13 when I first struck back. 13. Still a boy in many ways. My voice had barely changed. I had never held a sword in battle, never commanded men, never done anything but survive. But I was done surviving. Andrei Shuisky had grown careless, comfortable. He had ruled through me for so long that he had forgotten I was not truly his puppet, that the blood of grand princes flowed in my veins, that one day I would be a man. I called my guards. The royal guards who were sworn to protect me but had spent years taking orders from the Boyars. They came, stood before me, waiting. I saw the doubt in their eyes, the calculation. This boy or the powerful lord, the uncertain future or the certain present. I did not waver. I did not blink. I stood as tall as my young body would allow, and I spoke with all the authority I could summon. Arrest Andrei Shuisky, I commanded, for crimes against the crown. Silence. A moment that stretched like hours, and then they moved. They seized him, dragged him away, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in the eyes of a man who had made me afraid. I could have shown mercy, could have exiled him, imprisoned him, let him live out his days in some distant monastery. That is what a good ruler would have done, a wise ruler, a merciful ruler. I was none of those things. I had him executed, publicly, brutally. I wanted everyone to see. I wanted every boyar lord who had tormented me to understand that the rules had changed, that the boy they had abused was now a man who could destroy them. It worked. The other boyars fell in line, bowed and scraped and called me lord, but I saw the hatred behind their eyes, the fear mixed with resentment. I had made them afraid, yes, but I had also made them my enemies. And I had awakened something in myself, something dark, something that enjoyed their fear, that fed on it like fire feeds on wood. I should have recognized the danger then, should have pulled back, found another way. But I was young and angry and drunk on my first taste of power. It would not be my last. I was not always darkness. I need you to understand that. I need you to know that there was light once, brief and beautiful, and gone too soon. Anastasia. I was 16 when I crowned myself Tsar, Caesar, Emperor, the first ruler in Russian history to claim that title. I stood in the Cathedral of the Assumption while the Metropolitan placed the crown upon my head, the weight of it, the gold and jewels and centuries of tradition pressing down on my skull. But that is not what I remember most about that year. I remember her, the first time I saw her. A bride show, they called it. Noble families from across Russia bringing their daughters to be inspected like horses at market. Hundreds of young women, all hoping to catch the eye of the new Tsar. I was bored, restless, ready to choose anyone just to be done with it. And then she walked in. Anastasia Romanovna. Dark hair that caught the candlelight. Eyes that held kindness without weakness. A smile that had no calculation in it. No scheming, no fear. She was not from a powerful family. Her father was minor nobility at best, not a political match, not what my advisors wanted. They pushed other candidates, daughters of great houses, alliances that would strengthen my position. I did not care. For the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw not a throne to be captured, not a puppet to be controlled, not a monster to be feared. She saw me, just me, Ivan, a young man with too much anger and too little love. We were married in February. The snow was deep that year. The churches glowed with thousands of candles. When she took my hand during the ceremony, I forgot that anyone else existed, forgot the Boyars watching, forgot the priest chanting, forgot the weight of the crown. There was only her. For 13 years, she saved me. I do not say this lightly. I do not exaggerate. Anastasia Romanovna was the only thing standing between Russia and the monster I would become. Every time the darkness rose in me, she pulled me back. When I wanted to lash out, to punish, to destroy, she would place her hand on mine and speak softly, reason with me, remind me that mercy was not weakness, that a Tsar who was loved was stronger than a Tsar who was feared. And I listened. For her, I would do anything. Those years were good. I reformed the laws, created a new legal code that protected the common people from the worst abuses of the nobility. I expanded our borders, conquered Kazan and Astrakhan, adding vast territories to the Russian realm. I built churches and monasteries and schools, invited scholars and craftsmen from across Europe to bring their knowledge to Moscow. The people prospered. Trade flourished. For the first time in generations, Russia was stable, strong, united. Even my enemies admitted I was a good ruler in those years. The Boyars who had tormented me as a child bowed and called me wise. Foreign ambassadors wrote home about the enlightened Tsar who had transformed a backward kingdom into a true empire. And at the center of it all was Anastasia, my wife, my conscience, my light. We had children together, 6 of them. I held them in my arms when they were born, watched them take their first steps, heard them call me father. For a few precious years, I knew what happiness was. But happiness never lasts. Not for me, not for anyone perhaps, but especially not for me. Most of our children died young. Sickness took them one by one. We buried them in the cathedral, these tiny bodies wrapped in white cloth. Each death took something from us, from her, from me. And then death came for her too. August of 1560, the hottest summer I can remember. The air thick and heavy, hard to breathe. The palace felt like an oven. Anastasia had been ill for months, wasting away slowly. The doctors bled her and prayed over her and gave her foul-smelling medicines that did nothing. I watched her fade like a flower in drought, growing weaker each day, her beautiful face becoming gaunt, her bright eyes growing dim. I held her hand when she died, felt her grip loosen, watched the last breath leave her body, saw the light fade from her eyes like a candle being snuffed out, and something died in me with her. I do not know how to describe it. The emptiness, the cold, as if someone had reached into my chest and torn out everything that made me human, everything that made me capable of love or mercy or joy. They poisoned her. I knew it then. I know it still. Modern men who have examined her remains found mercury in her bones, the same poison that killed my mother, the same Boyar families, the same smiling faces hiding murder in their hearts. I held her body for hours, would not let them take her, threatened to kill anyone who tried to pry her from my arms. When they finally buried her, I stood at the grave until I could not feel my legs, until the sun set and rose and set again. Then I walked back to the palace, and I was not the same man who had walked out. The world looked different after Anastasia died. Colors seemed muted. Food had no taste. Music brought no joy. I walked through the palace like a ghost, seeing enemies in every shadow. Every face became suspect. Every smile hid a knife. I stopped sleeping. When I did sleep, I saw her dying, over and over. Her eyes asking me why I had not protected her, why I had let them take her from me. I was Tsar of all Russia. I had conquered kingdoms, commanded armies, made the greatest nobles tremble at my word, and I could not save one woman from poison. The guilt consumed me, twisted into rage. If I could not protect her, I would avenge her. If I could not bring her back, I would make those responsible suffer as I suffered. My advisors came to me with concerns, with caution. They spoke of patience and investigation, of gathering evidence before acting. I looked at them and saw traitors. Where were they when she was dying? What did they know? What did they hide behind their concerned faces and careful words? Alexei Adashev, my most trusted counselor, the man who had helped me build a better Russia, the man who had stood beside me for years. I had him arrested, thrown into a dungeon. He died there within months. I did not even attend the burial. Sylvester, my spiritual guide, the priest who had taught me to temper justice with mercy, who had spoken to me of God's love and the importance of forgiveness, exiled, sent to freeze in a monastery at the edge of the world. Let him pray there. Let him pray until his lips turn blue and his heart stops. But it was not enough. It was never enough. The rage kept growing, feeding on itself, demanding more, always more. In 1565, I did something that had never been done before. I divided Russia in two. Half remained under the old laws, the Boyars and their traditions, the courts and customs that had governed for centuries. Let them have it. Let them play their games and scheme their schemes. The other half I claimed for myself. The Oprichnina, I called it, my personal domain. Land carved out of the heart of Russia, where my word was the only law, where I answered to no one but God. And to enforce my will, I created them. The Oprichniki, 6,000 men, chosen for their loyalty, for their brutality, for their willingness to do whatever I commanded without question or hesitation. They wore black robes and rode black horses. On their saddles hung two symbols, a dog's head and a broom. The head meant they would hunt down treason wherever it hid. The broom meant they would sweep Russia clean. They lived with me, ate with me, prayed with me. We rose at midnight for services, chanting prayers in candlelit chapels. We wore monks' robes and observed the rituals of the church. It was a kind of madness I see now, playing at holiness while planning horrors. But at the time it felt righteous, pure. We were instruments of God's justice, cleansing corruption, protecting Russia from those who would destroy it. When I pointed at a man, that man ceased to exist, not just killed, erased, his land seized, his family scattered, his name forbidden, as if he had never been. The purges began slowly. A family here, a village there, always justified, always necessary, always for the good of Russia. But the definition of treason kept expanding. First it was those who had directly opposed me, then those who had spoken against me, then those who might speak against me, then those who knew someone who might speak against me. The lists grew longer. the executions more frequent, the methods more severe. I told myself it was justice, that I was protecting the realm, that every death served a purpose. Lies. All lies. You have heard of Novgorod. Whatever you have heard is not enough, and yet I will not dwell on the details. Some things should not be spoken aloud. Some memories are too dark to give voice to. In the winter of 1570, I received word that Novgorod was plotting treason, that the city's leaders planned to defect to Poland, to hand over one of Russia's greatest cities to our enemies. Was it true? I do not know. Probably not. Letters can be forged. Evidence can be manufactured. I had done it myself often enough. I knew how easy it was to create a justification for what you already wanted to do. And I wanted to do this. That is the truth, I must confess. I wanted to destroy Novgorod. Wanted to show all of Russia what happened to those who even thought of betraying me. Wanted to feel power absolute and unquestioned. We marched north in January. 15,000 Oprichniki, an army of black-clad riders moving through the frozen landscape like a plague. Every village on the road suffered, every monastery. We left devastation in our wake. By the time we reached Novgorod, the people there knew what was coming. They had nowhere to run. We had sealed every exit, cut every road, surrounded the city completely. For 5 weeks, we occupied Novgorod. Every day, citizens were brought before me, accused of treason, given no chance to defend themselves. It did not matter what they said. I had already decided their fate. Tens of thousands died. The river ran red. The screams echoed off the ancient walls until there was no one left to scream. I will not describe what we did. I will not give you details to haunt your dreams. But know this, I was there. I watched. I ordered. And sometimes I participated. When it was over, I took everything of value. Gold, silver, icons that had survived for centuries, loaded onto carts and carried back to Moscow. I left behind silence, a city of ghosts. For years afterward, Novgorod was a wasteland. Grass grew in the streets. Buildings stood empty. The survivors were too few and too broken to rebuild what had been lost. That was my doing, my choice, my sin. And yet even Novgorod does not haunt me most. There is one act that outweighs all others, one moment that I return to again and again in the endless nights, one sin for which there can be no forgiveness, no justification, no excuse. My son, Ivan, named for me, my heir, my pride, the best of me and more. He was everything I had failed to be. Strong but not cruel, clever but not suspicious, brave but not reckless. He could have been a great Tsar, better than me, better than any who came before. He rode beside me in battle, sat with me in council, challenged me when he thought I was wrong. He was not afraid of me, perhaps the only person in all Russia who was not afraid. And I loved him. I love him still, even now. Even after November of 1581, I cannot breathe when I think of it. The air catches in my throat. My chest tightens. Even now, 3 years later, the memory is a wound that will not heal. His wife was pregnant, carrying my grandchild, the next generation, the future of our dynasty. I found her resting in her chambers, dressed in clothes I considered improper for a woman in her condition. The rage came. It always came so easily by then, rising like a wave, blotting out reason, blotting out everything but the anger and the need to act on it. I struck her, once, twice, I do not know how many times. She fell. She was crying, begging. She lost the child that night, my grandchild, dead before drawing a single breath because of me. Ivan found out. Of course he found out. He came to me, not with fear but with righteous anger, demanded to know what I had done, how I could have hurt his wife, killed his child. How dare he question me? I was Tsar, I was his father, I had conquered kingdoms. I struck him. My staff, the iron-tipped walking stick I carried everywhere. I swung it at my own son's head. The sound, I hear it every night. I will hear it for eternity. He fell. There was blood, so much blood. He looked up at me with those eyes, my eyes, his mother's eyes, and I saw something I had never seen there before. Not fear, not anger, betrayal. I caught him before he fell again, held him in my arms and screamed for help, for doctors, for priests, for God himself. 3 days. He lived for 3 days. I never left his side, did not eat, did not sleep, did not let go of his hand. I prayed. I had not truly prayed in years, but I begged God with everything I had. Take me instead. Take my throne, take Russia, take everything. Just let my boy live. God did not answer. Ivan died in my arms, his eyes still open, still looking at me. That same question hanging in the air. Why? I killed my son. Not the Boyars, not poison, not foreign enemies. Me, my rage, my hand, my weapon. Everything else I have done I can try to justify, lie about, excuse as necessity or justice or the burden of rule. But this, there is no excuse for this. 3 years now. 3 years of living with what I have done. I write lists every night, names, as many as I can remember. Every person I ordered killed, every family I destroyed, every life I ended or ruined. The lists fill books, volumes. I send them to monasteries with gold and silver, pay monks to pray for the souls of the dead, for my soul. As if gold can buy forgiveness, as if prayers can undo what I have done. My body is failing. Sores cover my skin. My joints swell and burn. The doctors give me mercury for the pain. Mercury. The same poison that killed my mother, that killed my wife. Now I drink it willingly, mixed with wine and herbs. Perhaps that is fitting. I have one son left, Fyodor. He is kind, gentle, pious, everything a Christian should be, and utterly unfit to rule Russia. He cannot hold this empire together. He does not have the strength, the cunning, the cruelty that Russia demands of its czars. Everything I built will fall apart. I can see it clearly now, as I could not see it before. Wars will come. Pretenders will rise, claiming to be my dead son returned. The Boyar families will tear at each other like wolves fighting over a carcass. Foreign armies will march through Russian lands. They will call it the time of troubles, and it will be my fault, my legacy, the price Russia pays for my sins. I wanted to make Russia great, strong, feared by all the world. Instead, I have doomed it to decades of suffering. My descendants will inherit not an empire, but a catastrophe, and there is nothing I can do to stop it. I am dying. The cold has reached my waist now. My fingers are numb. My vision is fading. They are setting up my chessboard. I can hear them in the next room, the click of pieces being placed in their positions. Chess. I have always loved chess. Order, rules, every piece in its proper place. So different from the chaos of the real world. In chess, you can see all the possibilities. Plan 10 moves ahead. Control the outcome. Life is not like that. In life, you make moves without understanding the consequences, without seeing where they lead. You think you are winning, and then you look up and realize you have destroyed everything you cared about. I asked for one last game. I do not know if I will have the strength to finish it, but I want to try. I want my last moments to be something other than darkness and regret. A foolish wish, perhaps. But dying men are allowed foolish wishes. I was a boy once, frightened, alone, hiding in corners while powerful men decided my fate. I prayed for someone to save me, to protect me, to love me. No one came. So I became something that did not need saving, something that could protect itself, something that would never be vulnerable again. But in the process, I lost the ability to love, to trust, to see other people as anything but threats or tools. I built walls so high that no one could reach me, and inside those walls, I was more alone than ever. Anastasia breached those walls. For 13 years, she reminded me what it felt like to be human. And when she died, the walls came back stronger than ever. I locked myself inside them and threw away the key. I wonder sometimes what that frightened boy would think if he could see me now. Would he understand? Would he recognize the path from where he stood to where I ended up? I think he would weep. For me, for all the people I hurt, for the man he could have been if things had been different. But things were not different. This is the life I lived. These are the choices I made, and I must answer for them. I do not ask for your forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I have told you my story not to make you sympathize, but to make you understand. Monsters are not born, they are made, piece by piece, choice by choice, until one day you look in the mirror and you do not recognize what looks back. I could have chosen differently, at any point. I could have broken the cycle, chosen mercy over vengeance, trust over suspicion, love over fear. But I did not, and that is my responsibility, my sin, my burden to carry into whatever awaits me after death. If there is a God, and I have never been certain, despite all my prayers and church building, then I will face judgment soon. I do not know what I will say, how I can possibly account for all the blood on my hands. Perhaps there is nothing to say. Perhaps I will simply stand in silence and accept whatever punishment is decreed. It could not be worse than what I have already experienced. The guilt, the memories, the endless parade of faces that haunts my dreams. Hell holds no terrors for me. I have lived in hell for years. The cold has reached my chest now. It is hard to breathe. Each breath is a struggle, a battle. I am losing. I have lost so many battles in my life. Battles I thought I was winning. Battles against the Boyars, against my enemies, against my own darkness. I won them all and lost them all at the same time. The greatest battle of all was the one I fought against myself, against the rage and fear and pain that drove me, against the voice in my head that whispered that everyone was an enemy, that mercy was weakness, that only through terror could I survive. I listened to that voice. I let it guide me, and it led me here, to a dark room, a dying fire, an old man with blood on his hands and no one left to love him. This is the legacy of Ivan the Terrible, not the conquered kingdoms, not the reformed laws, not the churches and monasteries I built. Those will be forgotten or destroyed. What will be remembered is the suffering, the terror, the senseless destruction of countless lives. That is what I leave behind. That is what my name will mean for centuries to come. My hands are shaking too much to hold the chess pieces now, but I can see the board in my mind. White and black squares, each piece in its place, ready for a game that will never be played. In chess, the Tsar is called the king, the most important piece, the one that must be protected at all costs. If the king falls, the game is over. But the king is also the weakest piece. It can only move one square at a time. It cannot attack from a distance. It must rely on others to fight its battles. I thought I was strong, thought I was the most powerful man in the world. But I was always the weakest piece on the board, moving one square at a time, never seeing the larger pattern, never understanding the game until it was too late. And now the game is ending. My king is cornered. There is no escape. Checkmate. If you are listening to this, if somehow my words have survived my death, then I have one request. Do not remember me as a monster. Do not remember me as a hero either. Both of those are too simple, too easy. Remember me as a warning. Remember that a frightened child can become a terrifying man. That pain, if left to fester, becomes cruelty. That power without love to temper it becomes destruction. Remember that every tyrant was once someone's baby, that every monster has a story that explains, though does not excuse, what they became. And remember that you have the same capacity for darkness within you. Everyone does. The difference between a good person and a monster is not nature but choice. Day after day, moment after moment. The choice to be kind when cruelty would be easier, to be merciful when vengeance calls. I made the wrong choices, again and again, until there were no more choices left to make. Do not follow my path. The fire has gone out. The room is dark now, cold. I can hear footsteps in the corridor. Someone coming with candles perhaps, or doctors, or priests to give me last rites. It does not matter. Nothing matters anymore. I think I will close my eyes now, just for a moment, just to rest. Anastasia is waiting for me. I do not know if that is true. I do not know if there is anything after death, or if it is just darkness and silence forever. But I want to believe she is waiting, that I will see her face again, that she will take my hand as she did on our wedding day, and that perhaps, she will forgive me. I do not forgive myself. I never will. But perhaps she can. The darkness is coming. I feel it closing in. Heavy. Warm now. Not cold. Like a blanket. Like an embrace. I think I am ready. Forgive me.
Ivan IV Vasilievich, called Ivan the Terrible, died on March 18th, 1584. He collapsed while setting up his chessboard for a game he would never play. He was 53 years old and had ruled Russia for 50 years. His heir, Fyodor I, was too weak to hold the empire together. Within 15 years, Russia descended into the time of troubles, a period of civil war, foreign invasion, and famine that killed millions and nearly destroyed the nation. Ivan's legacy was exactly what he feared: a broken land, a shattered dynasty, suffering beyond measure. The game he never won was the one against himself. And in the end, that is the only game that matters. This is the first in a series called Final Confessions. Rulers, conquerors, tyrants, all speaking their truth before death. If you want to hear more voices from the edge of history, subscribe now and turn on notifications. The next confession is already waiting. I'll see you there.